in Uruguay, we are used to going against the odds.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining us and welcome to the Founders in LA podcast. I'm your host Ethan Cole, and this is an opportunity to shine the spotlight through a product lens on some of the exceptional founders we have as part of the LA community in an unedited, one-take organic conversation. From time to time, we have some folks who aren't from LA come and join us. Today, I'm really excited to have in the chair Hilario Canessa, coming to us from Montevideo, Uruguay. Thanks so much for coming down to the studio, Hilario.
Absolutely. I'm honored to be here.
I'm excited for this one. Very excited to chat with you about what you're working on. But first, a word from our sponsors. Founders in LA is brought to you by Nearshore. Nearshore is a trailblazer in nearshore outsourcing and staff augmentation. With over 15 years of experience offering exceptional Latin American software development, data, product, and design talent for U.S. projects, Nearshore has revolutionized the way companies scale their teams. They stand apart with 50% female leadership, are trusted by companies large and small, and have been helping U.S. customers grow since before nearshoring was cool. Discover how Nearshore can power your tech goals and help you stay lean while scaling fast. Learn more at www.nearshore.com. That's www.nearsure.com. We're also brought to you by United Club. United Club is the co-working space that sets itself apart. With locations at El Segundo, Manhattan Beach, and Hermosa, United is where creativity flourishes. Unlike traditional offices, they provide an inspiring environment where ideas can thrive and businesses can grow. With United, there's no hidden fees, flexible terms, options for dedicated offices, and unlimited access to conference rooms, a photo studio, this podcast studio, plus standard 3D printers and 24/7 access to any of their locations. They're local champions who support neighborhood businesses and open their event spaces to nonprofits and celebrate art, music, and culture. Join United Club and experience co-working like never before. Learn more at www.united.club. Our guest today is Hilario Canessa. He is the founder and CEO at Studio4D. Hilario, can you just give us a 30-second description of Studio4D?
Yeah, Studio4D is an innovation company focused on immersive environments. Mostly our, let's say, core business is digital twins for urban planning. We also do some experience in training with VR and in virtual production for filmmaking. But mostly is digital twins for urban planning. That's our bread and butter, and that's what we are promoting now.
Could you double click into what is a digital twin for urban planning? Like, what does that mean? What does it look like?
Yeah, so digital twin is a very wide word. A digital twin can be, a dashboard where you input information on one end and get numbers in the other. Digital twin can also be a reproduction of reality, like you scan in 3D and then you use that for example, for industrial maintenance and support. And the way we use digital twins is for planning is projected. So you can see a projected future of built environment in an interactive and immersive manner. Digital twins for urban planning have several different levels of details because when you plan a city, you have existing projects, you have projects that are designed to the fullest, and projects that you have an idea that you think you're going to be residential, it's going to be corporate, it's going to be something, and you use placemakers, right? So those three levels of reality can coexist in a digital twin, which is very powerful for telling the stories of a city.
And in terms of urban planning, I could see how the challenges are there, because even just the shadows, how they're placed on a wall at a different time of day can really impact the way someone experiences a city. So the ability to realistically render what that experience would feel like for people who would be in this building, where you're spending tens of millions of dollars to produce, maybe sometimes hundreds. I could see the value in having a really high fidelity version of what it could feel like to be there.
Well, right on. Let me start there and then scale up to a thing that is really important. All stakeholders in a city, they need proper information because they are making a big bet. It's a residential buyer, corporate leasing, commercial leasing, investors, public officials. Everybody is taking an important decision. It's making an important decision when it comes to cities, right? So you need the information to be accurate and to be consistent. On the other hand, when you tell as I was telling you before, the different stories of a city, cities have, as opposed to a residential building, in which you have one story, which is this is the location, these are the amenities, and then you can choose between 1, 2, or 3 bedrooms. However important the project can be, there's only one story, right? When you talk about cities, you have many different stakeholders and audiences. You have public officials, investors, residential clients, commercial tenants, corporate tenants, and all of those need to be addressed in depth and with consistency. So having a digital twin allows you to tell these stories about the project with flexibility and with consistency. And there's no other medium at the moment that can reproduce that, because if you do a physical model, you can see the high stakes of the project, and you can see the big scale. And if you do renders, you can see the details, but there's no way you can go from one place to the other. And all of these stakeholders care about that. Investors want to see how the payments are designed, and they want to see how many of the assets will they be controlling. Public officials want to see what are the species of vegetation that you're going to put in the plaza, and they want to see how the plaza relates to the corporate buildings nearby and how near it is to the train station or to the bus station. So I think the digital twins are transforming the way the stories of future urbanism are told.
You make it interesting reference to the physical models, and I feel like that's potentially, I imagine, I'm not as familiar with that space, but that's what people used to do in the past. They would have like a physical model that they would show to an urban planning group, and they would like look at the little model, almost like a diorama of what the building would look like. Is that how they used to do it in the past?
Well, I don't think physical models are going to die. I mean, I think they still exist, and they still have a purpose. It's just that that medium doesn't allow for full detail. You have to choose between size and detail, and with digital twins, you don't have to compromise that, because all the gaming engines are designed around the experience of having full detail in customized experiences. So that's what I'm telling you. I don't want to talk to demean the power of physical models. I'm just saying digital twins have a possibility that no other medium has.
Yeah, and you showed me a version of the product, or no, not the actual working product earlier today. I was fascinated. It feels like a video game, and so I feel like there's a level of accessibility to people to multiple stakeholders, to actually feel like they understand what's being built, because it's in this world where we all are in our phones and are used to video games more than ever before. I feel like that adds a level of accessibility to the stakeholders to understand really what's being built and really kind of put themselves in the shoes of people in the finished product.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in all honesty, it is a video game. It is by definition. I mean, the technology we use is video gaming technology. The practices we use, the optimizing of the geometry of the textures, it is it is a gaming experience by nature. It's just the use. It's not what we are used to. Yeah. It's a use for aiding design. It's a use for communication. It's a use to generate understanding and transparency. So I think it's. As I told you before, it is, by all means, a gaming experience. But it's a gaming experience that is not meant to just be, entertaining. It is entertaining. Entertainment is not the purpose. The purpose is communication.
Wow, so you're saying that under the hood, it's actually powered by similar technology to video
absolutely.
games.
We use Unreal Engine. It's an Epic Games, engine that, it's the same platform that they use to develop Fortnite. It's just that Fortnite doesn't look realistic, and what we do looks realistic because it needs to be realistic. That's the only. It's a matter of focus. and proficiency. The people that model the projects that we do are architects. Our team is composed 1/3 architects, 1/3 game developers, 1/3 IT engineers. So it's a very interesting mixture. I keep, in the office we have, of course, IT engineers and architects think very differently. So we have this poster of the two sides of the brain, and we keep telling them, look, guys, I know you have, discrepancies and we think differently, but, mixing the two ways of thinking is exactly what we do best. And I believe, that I truly believe that when you get, logical thinkers with creative artists is when things happen. There's, more than enough proof throughout history about that.
And on top of, in addition to that, yes, and the application of technology to solving novel problems and novel challenges. So the ability to take the gaming technology, it's not of itself an end product, but you're saying, hey, let's apply it to urban planning, where they have a challenge of trying to identify what multiple projects would look like in a finished state and probably unfinished state as well. I bet you could also, if you could also like show, hey, here's what it's going to look like for the 2 years while it's being built. Here's what it's going to look like after it's done. Really giving a sense of understanding of what is being built when you're dealing with these projects that are long term and very expensive.
Yeah, absolutely. This is exactly what we do. I don't know what to say.
Well, so how did you find yourself in this chair? Like, none of this technology existed when we were growing up. So how did you think you'd become an entrepreneur, or how did you find yourself in this particular space? But also, how did you find yourself starting a business? Yeah,
well, of course. So growing up in Uruguay, I started studying architecture, but I wanted nothing to do with construction. It's not fun for me. The fun part for me, and the thing that comes naturally for me, is to have ideas and try different things and basically be creative. That's what I do best. So in order to communicate the projects that I was working with, because I was an average, hand drawing architect, but my drawings were not specifically beautiful.
Right.
So I had no other option to start using the computer for it. And that turned into a superpower, because I really loved. I stopped sleeping because I was doing renderings all the time for while I was studying architecture, and then that turned to be, at first, my fellow students, we would trade. They would do the models for me because I have like fat fingers and just cannot do it. My fellow classmates would do the models for me, and I would do the renders for them. So. And then it started, when people started working at different architectural studios, they started calling me to do the renders, and that's how it started, right? And then when we started the company in 2007, we started exporting right away. We always had I always thought about selling our services abroad. In Uruguay, we are 3 million people. And you can become an architect for free. The university is for free. There are private universities, but they're also like fully free university in Uruguay. So there's an over offer of professionals, and there's no market. The market is very small. So we have no other option than to sell our services abroad. So I always had that in mind, and that's where it started. And then in 2016. We started using gaming technology for virtual reality. We started really early with that. Well, there's a long story of virtual reality existing for many years, but not being available to everyone. When the first Oculus came out, we bought one, 1 month after it was released, and we started using them for virtual reality. Then when the pandemic came, nobody wanted to use a virtual reality headset anymore in their life, in history.
Right.
So we pivoted to an online architecture, a cloud-based architecture. We have high performance servers. We deploy the application to high performance servers, and then we access it remotely. And then on the other end, we use streaming services, so you could tell the stories of your project in real time with full flexibility to endless users and the pandemic was very powerful. So we got to grow our portfolio considerably at that moment, and now we are here. This is where we are after the pandemic ended and people started going to sales centers again. We started using this technology as an on-site application, and now we're probably going back to VR, hopefully. At least the deep nerd in me wants to go back to VR, but let's see what the market calls.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, one of the kind of early takeaways, which I really do love, is you recognize that you aren't the best drawer, so you got involved in the computer programs early in the application of technology to architecture, not too early, but early enough, so that you became proficient at that skill, and all of a sudden that opportunities arose because you were the guy who knew how to render architectural designs on a computer probably better than anyone because you're staying up and enjoying it. And then you followed the evolution of the market and its relationship to technology in design. Yeah, curious. So you alluded to maybe going back to VR, like where do you see it going? So in this world, and you'll have to listeners, you'll have to check out some demos. It really feels like you're in a video game with like hyper realistic versions of city buildings that you're in. It's like Grand Theft Auto on steroids because it's really real and you're just in there. You're not doing all the stuff you do on Grand Theft Auto, but the ability to see to feel like, hey, I'm in this building at this particular time of day, or I'm walking by on the street. Where do you see that going next? What's next for Studio4D?
You mean in terms of virtual reality or for Studio4D?
I guess I would imagine they're probably coupled pretty closely. So Studio4D with regards to technology, where do you see the roadmap going?
Well, I'll answer that in two parts. First of all, in terms of Studio4D, I think that the next step will be to add layers of information on top of the digital twins we are building for urban planning. That means traffic simulations, that means infrastructure simulations, being able to do maintenance of the infrastructure of a city, electricity, water, security, cameras, changing the batteries, doing maintenance, and having that in a controlled environment, which is, visible and evident. I think that is something that's where I see, our use of technology going. Starting to add layers of information. Now that we have, a proper reproduction, a proper simulation of a city, now we start adding the functionality of a city, and we see what happens, and we run simulations, and we prevent problems, and we anticipate maintenance issues, and we simulate flooding, and we simulate, power outages, and see what happens. I think that's where it's going. Digital twins with with a little more information. And in terms of VR, I think latency continues to be a problem. Because the problem with VR is that there's one user, right? And I love VR, but we tried marketing that, and it worked to an extent, but then it didn't continue to evolve. And I think that it's because it's not a social experience yet. And I think it will become a social experience when when you could hold live experiences that are persistent, that can be used by many people at the same time, and that has latency issues, because if you lose latency, you're going to have motion thickness in VR, not going to like it.
Yeah, any glitch, people.
So I think
stop using it.
I think we cannot say the word metaverse anymore. but
I was thinking metaverse as you're saying these things.
But we can't say it anymore. But I think that until the proper metaverse that we see in the movies happens, I think VR is very good for some uses. For example, training for industrial facilities. And there are very specific uses that I think apply perfectly, and we are doing that actively and commercially. But I think it won't reach, massive numbers until the latency and the persistency are solved.
Going back to 4D and kind of your business plan for it, how did you get your first customers? And I guess maybe first customers in potentially Uruguay if you started there, and then how did you get your first U.S. customers?
So the first customers we got in Uruguay is the way I told you. That I used to have friends that started with architecture with me, and then they got jobs at architectural firms, and then we started doing renderings like that. And then in the US, Aaron Stopak, who is a partner of mine, and we worked together in Washington D.C. We got a first deal with Centex. It's a company that went out of business, I think, in the real estate crisis. It's a home builder. I remember working a lot for a video that I don't like anymore, but at the moment it was pretty good. It was a community of many buildings, and it was a very tough challenge for us at that moment. Even doing it in 3ds Max and traditional rendering technology, that was what we were using then, it was very, very stressful. But
how did you find that customer though? How did you get them to even take a meeting?
Well, Aaron got the meeting, and I flew from Montevideo to Washington, and we pitched them, and then we got the client.
So in this respect, it's like finding the right partner to then help you with the customer. So you had your own base in Uruguay, you're looking to expand the US, and for you the recipe for success was finding someone local who could help get those meetings for you and be an advocate and a champion locally.
Yeah, absolutely. Having somebody locally in DC was key to being able to develop that part of the business. Absolutely, yes.
Awesome. And bringing it back to Los Angeles and locally, something we like to ask our guests, and I think this will be an interesting one for you. Like, what's the most LA thing that's happened to you? It could be tech related. It doesn't have to be.
Well, there's two things I have to say. One of them, I wouldn't put them in order, but one of them was I saw the Black Crowes in Washington, in LA here. I just love the Black Crowes. I'm crazy about them. And it's a band that is very well known here, but in Uruguay, like, nobody knows it. Only I care about it, right. But I love it. So coming to LA, I think it was in 2004 or something. I came with a friend, and we went to the Greek Theater to see the Black Crowes. I mean, I'm still chilled. I'm still chilled. I was also heartbroken when they canceled the tour last year. Well, anyways, that's one thing. The other thing is, what I'm about to leave during the weekend. This movie Society of the Snow that's being it's a nominee for Best International Feature Film in the Oscars. It's a story about my father and my father and 44 people more. That they had this accident in 1972. Their plane crashed in the Andes, and long story short, out of 45, 16 survived. 2 of them walked out. One of them is my father. And so now, during the weekend, my father's coming. We're probably going to attend a couple of... I'm not sure we're going to attend the ceremony. I mean, I'm pretty sure I am not going to attend the ceremony. Maybe he will, I don't know. But there's a lot of other, satellite parties around this. I think it's going to be fun. To be perfectly honest, and I have to say this, my wife convinced me to come to LA to this. And then, at first I was reluctant, but then I said, okay, this is a once in a lifetime. And also I can turn it into a business trip, so I can write it off. So I arranged a couple of business meetings that were, very successful. I'm really happy with what has happened business-wise so far.
Oh, wow. And so that is a very, very LA thing. One, seeing anyone at the Greek is a very LA experience, but then attending satellite Oscar parties, not you, but maybe family members attending the Oscars themselves, and the Society, the Snow on Netflix. It's an incredible, true story that they're doing, and it's pretty wild that your father was actually one of the 2 guys who actually climbed their way off that glacier. Very LA. Do you think did that have any impact on you becoming an entrepreneur or having a sense that, hey, I can do this, whatever this is? Did your father being one of the guys who really drove that? How did that impact you? That must have impacted some
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the bar was always very high for me, like in every sense, because yes, that sense of, I mean, you can do this, whatever that is embedded in my bones. I mean, this is just who I am by nature, and I think that really helped me. I think that that the capacity that my father gave me to be able to think straight in stressful situations is something that I value very much, and I think that has helped me a long way. And but I mean, I don't want to don't get me wrong. I mean, I have possibly the best parents in the world. You know, my father and my mother. It's not like I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
But I absolutely, you know, even like when I was growing up, I didn't know it, but now I look back and I say, why did you do this, and why did you do this, and why did you do this, and why didn't you just, you know, get a job in a financial company and do the and I'll take another path, I mean, financial or whatever, right?
Right.
And I think it was within me to do something that I believed in, and to just, you know, set for a goal and just go for it no matter what. And I think that is, you know, mostly positive. Sometimes it's too much.
Yeah.
And now that I'm older, I learned to choose my battles, which was a tough lesson. But I think, I don't know, being able to set yourself for a goal and then just go for it and trust that you can do it, I think it's like a superpower or something. So.
Okay, and for context, for some of the listeners who may not be as familiar with the story, there was a rugby team from Uruguay who was flying to Chile for just kind of a fun rugby match. They crashed in the Andes for 72 days. They were up on the glacier. Hilario's father was one of the two guys who, after like 60 days, you're like, hey, we need to, this is on us. We need to figure a way out of this, and just hiked off the glacier for 10 days. We have a saying in the States, you know, if you know, an older person is talking to a younger person, like, I walked, you know, when I was young, I walked to school, you know, uphill both ways in the snow. Your dad eclipses that by many, many degrees exponentially. But at the same time, I think it instilled in you this idea that, hey, I can put it together. I will endure whatever I have to do. If I have an idea set on something, my mind set on something, I can make it happen. And so thank you for sharing that. It's a terrific story. We're all crossing fingers for Society to Snow this weekend. The Oscars are going to be in the next few days from the day of recording this. So yeah, we'll have fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
I mean, in Uruguay, we are used to going against the odds.
Yeah.
So this is one more.
Well, thank you so much, Hilario. Thank you for sharing your story and coming
Absolutely.
down to the studio, taking time for us and your quick trip to LA. Like to thank our sponsors again, Nearshore, Unita, and ProdHub.ai. If you want to build better products with ProdHub AI, where innovation meets efficiency. Automate your PRDs, fast track your story creation, and speed up your product team with a single platform. It's your co-pilot for product management. Discover how at prodhub.ai. That's prodhub.ai. And Hilario, if people are interested in Studio4D, where can they find you?
It's studio4d.com. Just
easy.
Couldn't be easier. It's a good domain.
That's a great domain. Like to thank you all again for listening to us. If you like what you hear, please smash that subscribe button. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Founders in LA.